Morning. Those lights are a little brighter this morning than they were yesterday. Say, I've got a couple of announcements before we get going. Has anybody seen my tights?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I left them in someone's room last night. I just can't remember. And the other announcement, would the owner of this mullet please step forward? Come on, Rich. Hey, great time last night, wasn't it? I thought it was interesting. Did you notice how many additional Secret Service guys were on duty last night? All the celebs, walking the halls. Madonna. Where's Francis? Francis, yeah. Can we trust AP to Francis? That was a great time. So I wanted to bring a matter to your attention. You remember Sarah and Art Tambucci yesterday, and Art was taken this morning to the hospital by the squad about 7 a.m. He was having breathing difficulties, and we don't yet know any final diagnosis, but we'll be in touch, and we'll keep you posted throughout the course of the day. So keep Art and Sarah in your thoughts and prayers, if you would, please. Where's Derek? Is he here? Is he awake? Derek did a heck of a job, and he was on his game last night, wasn't he? Let me just recap yesterday before we kick off today's session. Open it up with Rich's State of the Company introduction, which gave really just wonderful perspective, I think, to who we are and what we do and why we're here. Of course, Heather in her presentation on branding and the movement of the entire organization to one and the significance of that. And rolling out the new code of conduct, which again you'll be hearing and seeing a lot more of that. And I think above all, we were so blessed to have the 7 individuals with us talking to you from the heart about what it means to be the recipients of your service and your care. And from the comments I heard from so many of you, that was a significant message effectively delivered. So we need to keep that in the forefront of our minds and hearts when we leave this place tomorrow. Today is an opportunity actually to honor you. And you're the ones who have dedicated your lives to the service of others. And we all know what kind of a sacrifice that takes and what a full investment of your time and your family's time. So we want to honor you. And today we'll be doing that through the testimony of our keynote speakers. And tonight, of course, at the awards banquet, we'll be doing that as well. And as Matt said yesterday, you represent in excess of 2,000 years of experience in service to children, youth, and adults, and that is extremely impressive, and I personally want to thank you and congratulate you for all of that. After we adjourn from the ballroom this morning, you'll have about a 30-minute break before heading down to your first breakout sessions, which will be on the lower level. And you'll have plenty of time to meet and greet, and the Quinn Family singers have a table over there for CD sales and to meet them and extend your appreciation for what they're doing for us this morning. And then the first breakout session will begin at 11:30. Don't forget to take a lunch break, boxed lunches, so you'll pick up your lunch at 12:55, late lunch. And then you'll take that to the second breakout session. Now, I do want you to know that in each breakout room, we've got a lot of good energy food, some healthy, some not so healthy. So before or after lunch, feel free to indulge in that. Of course, if you have any questions along the way, talk to one of our hospitality folks. They're wearing the white ribbon under their name badge. And tonight, our annual awards banquet kicks off at 6:15 right here. For those who get here early, of which probably 200 of you will, we'll open the house and the bars at 6 o'clock. Tonight, as you enter the ballroom, you'll see regional table signs on each of the tables, so find your own region and sit at one of those tables. Please take a seat there, and then remember, of course, throughout the day, this morning, breakout sessions in this evening, turn off the cell phones, if you would, or put them to vibrate. That'd be great. So those are my only housekeeping details, and I'll look forward to finding my tights at our first break. And it's now my pleasure to turn it back over to our leader, the one who makes all of this possible for us, Rich Johnson.
As Art mentioned, we've got a power-packed day lined up, and I'm especially pleased to introduce one very special guest who has carved out time from his busy schedule to be with us this morning. Would Director John Martin please join me on the stage? I'd like to take just a moment to tell you something about John and why we're so proud to name him as our 2009 conference honoree. On January 15, 2007, John Martin was appointed by Governor Strickland as the new director of the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities. Director Martin received his bachelor's degree in special education from Illinois State University and his master's degree in community psychology from Temple University. Throughout his distinguished career, John has served as a special education teacher, a direct care worker in an agency serving medically complex children, and a house parent in a group home for individuals who were dually diagnosed. John has also served as Director of Residential Services for an agency operating under the Pennhurst Order in Pennsylvania. Prior to assuming his responsibilities as Director of the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, John served as the Executive Director of Sunshine Incorporated in Northeast Ohio. Sunshine is a provider agency serving individuals with developmental disabilities, and John served Sunshine as its Executive Director beginning in 1984. In 1995, John also founded and became Executive Director of a subsidiary of Sunshine that now provides computer software support to more than 100 agencies in 18 states across the country, including our company. John served on the board of the Ohio Provider Resource Association and as a representative of the Family Advisory Committee for the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities. Director Martin's list of honors and accolades is endless, but to suffice it to say, John knows the profession firsthand, not only as a father of a 22-year-old son with disabilities, but also as a dedicated provider and leader who has dedicated his career to the care of children, youth, and adults with developmental disabilities. John has a very impressive resume, but I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you about the man and the impact that John has had on not only me, but this company. I went to work for Mike Levinson in 1994. After being with Mike only a few short weeks, I came to Columbus and served on a committee with John. We were with our state association, and we had some very important matters at hand, and we needed a consensus from the provider community to move forward. It was extremely important. I was representing our company, and I went back and got Mike his consensus, and when he came to Columbus for some of Mike's reasons, he changed his mind. John was extremely upset with me because I was there representing the company, and I'll never forget standing in my living room calling John weeks later, and John saying, at some point, you have to stand up for your values, and you're going to have to learn that if you have those values, no matter who you work for, you have to stand up and make a stand for your values. I sat down with Mike the next day and said, Mike, we need to make this a value-based company, and never again are we going to do something that is against our values. And so John has had a tremendous impact on this company and as me as a person. I would like to now present John with a token of our appreciation. It says, to Director Martin for outstanding leadership and service to individuals with special abilities, presented this 8th day of October 2009 as our conference honoree at ViaQuest 12th Annual Conference. Thanks, John. Do you want to say a few words?
Do you want me to?
It's up to you.
I'll just say.
You know, I know Rich could go on. That's why I brought a cup of coffee up with me so I could sip while he was talking. So I just want to say, Rich, thanks a lot for the kind words that you said. And also, I know that, you know, just as you all have gone through tough times as a company, as you know, you're not alone in that. We at the state are also going through extremely tough times right now. But I think just as you are optimistic, we remain optimistic as well. We think there's a lot of opportunities as we come out of these difficult financial times to really make some differences in our system and to move things forward. So just on behalf of all of us at the state, I want to express the appreciation for what you all do. I've done the kind of work you do, and I know how difficult it can be some days, but we at the state really depend upon providers like you to provide the care, show the love, teach the skills to the folks out there with disabilities throughout our community. So again, thanks for what you do, and keep up the good work, and I appreciate the honor. So thanks, Rich.
It's no mere coincidence that we've selected the Quinn Family Singers as our keynote speakers for this year's conference. With our conference theme being one company united to serve, we searched for a keynote who, through their own personal journey, could relate firsthand to the importance of unity. And we've searched for a keynote who knew what it means to serve others with passion and excellence, and who knows what it means to sacrifice oneself for others. Well, we found such a keynote in the Quinn Family Singers. Let me take a few minutes to introduce this amazing family. The Quinn Family Singers is a 14-member musical act consisting of Tom and Margaret Quinn of Zanesville, Ohio, and their children and grandchildren. The Quinn Family Singers offer a variety of music spanning 6 decades, as well as some amazing original compositions, one of which you will hear today. The family, which has sung together for generations, actually began performing publicly 9 years ago, and they did so in the name of recovery for mental illness. The Quinn Family Singers was formed at the urging of Pat Quinn and at the suggestion of the family's patriarch, Tom Quinn, Sr., both of whom you'll soon meet. But one more point needs to be made. Every dollar raised by the Quinn Family Singers goes directly to the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They never charge a fee for any of their performances. They simply ask the event sponsor to make a donation to NAMI in the name of the Quinn Family Singers. The group has just finished recording their first professionally produced CD, and those will be available for sale after our morning session. Again, with all of the proceeds going to the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Members of the Quinn Family Singers hail from 3 states and have made great personal sacrifice to be here this morning at our conference. Indeed, we're both honored and fortunate to have them here today. To introduce the members of the band and to host this keynote session, let me turn it back over to the Silver Fox.
Thanks, Rich. It's a pleasure to now have the opportunity to introduce the members of the Quinn Family Singers. And as you'll hear, every member of this group has dedicated their life to healthcare. We have a lot in common, as you'll find out as I introduce them and as they tell their story. So, Quinn Family, as I call your name, please join me on the stage. First, Tom and Margaret. Tom and Margaret have been married 56 years. I'm told they are 80-something. 7 children, 9 grandchildren. A few great-grandchildren, I'm sure, scattered in there as well. I will say in advance, when I heard this group perform in Zanesville, there were a lot of little kids. I assume those to be children and grandchildren, none of whom, unfortunately, could be with us today because of school commitments. But I tell you in advance, we would need a stage twice this size to host them here. Tom and Margaret launched the Quinn Family Singers as a way of celebrating the recovery from serious mental illness. Tom and Margaret have a long history of community service, including work with the Boy Scouts, Meals on Wheels, hospice care, and as Rich said earlier, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. You'll soon see Tom and Margaret on vocals and percussion. Next is Gretchen Quinn Booth, also a vocalist in the group. Gretchen works in the Cancer Data Registry for the Mount Carmel Health System, based here in Columbus. She has extensive experience in the healthcare field, having previously worked for the Genesis Health System in Zanesville. Gretchen is also a performer in the Greater Zanesville Singers. She has 4 stepchildren and 7 grandchildren with her husband, Jeff. Gretchen and Jeff contribute many, many hours of volunteer work for NAMI in the Zanesville area. Dr. Tom Quinn, Jr. Tom is an optometrist in practice with his wife of 27 years, Dr. Susan Gibson Quinn. Doctors Tom and Susan live in Athens, Ohio, and have 2 children, Brian and Katie. Tom is an ardent supporter of NAMI. He's been involved in many service activities, including the Lions Club, the Oblenis Hospital Board of Trustees, and Vision USA, and the Vision USA program, which provides eye care services to needy individuals. Tom also sings in an Athens, Ohio doo-wop band called Remember Then, and is a regular performer in the Ohio Valley Summer Theater program. Tom, as you see here, will be on guitar, and he's a vocalist. Carolyn Quinn. Carolyn is a medical claims representative at the Ohio State University Hospitals. She also has an extensive experience in theater. Carolyn is also an active supporter of the mentally ill, and she serves as the official secretary of the Quinn Family, which is a very prestigious but definitely unpaid position. She works it with gusto, and she's a vocalist in the group. Paul Quinn. Plays the drums, the guitar, and is a vocalist with the Quinn Family Singers. Paul is Director of Communications for the Health Policy Institute of Ohio, and he just completed 2 3-year terms on the Board of Directors for Ohio's chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Paul currently serves on the Marketing Advisory Committee for NAMI here in Franklin County. He's also an officer for the New England Masonic Lodge in Columbus and has extensive background in healthcare as well. Paul and his wife, Kathy, joining him, have 2 sons of their own, Andy and Joey, and they have 2 foster children, Eli and Cody Pierce, and they've also unofficially adopted a local senior citizen in the community. Paul also plays drums for the Columbus area rock and roll band called Gangsta.
And I'm still salty that I didn't win the Madonna lookalike contest last night.
Me too. Chuck Quinn.
Chuck's our brother from the great state of Michigan. And unfortunately, he's not able to be here with us. He does send his love and respect for what you do.
He works at General Motors, so
Enough said.
He thought maybe he should go to work since we think he still has a job. Because if not, we have to support him. We don't want to do that.
Not knowing that Chuck wouldn't be here, but now that you explained that he's from Michigan, I can see why he wussed out.
He would have got lost anyway.
Francie. Francie Quinn Family is on keyboard, flute, percussion, and vocals. She's a clinical study manager for Quintiles and has a long history of healthcare work. She's served at Ross Abbott Labs and the Genesis Hospital Network. Francie is a current board member for NAMI of Ohio. She and her husband Ken have 2 children, Thomas and Marie, who also frequently perform with the Quinn Family Singers, and as I said earlier, unable to be here. Being the youngest female in the 9-member Quinn family, Francie has had to take a lot of grief.
You ain't kidding.
But they tell me she's come out just fine.
It's all relative.
Vocalist, Pat.
Pat.
Pat Quinn, as you'll find out, is the poster child for recovery from mental illness. Pat has overcome schizophrenia to earn 2 college degrees, helped start a drop-in center in Zanesville, leads Schizophrenics Anonymous support groups. Pat volunteers in the psychiatric unit of Genesis Hospital. He speaks to many, many groups, including family-to-family training programs, crisis intervention team training, and many other groups throughout Ohio. Pat, by far, is the inspiration for the formation of the Quinn Family Singers and for the family's involvement in NAMI. Regarding his experience with mental illness, Pat's motto, recovery rocks.
Yeah. That's right, yeah.
Brian.
Funky Brian.
Son of Tom Jr. and Susan. He's a professional musician in Chicago. Today you'll see him on bass, piano, vocals. Brian is a graduate of the Berklee School of Music in Boston. Funky Brian, as he's called, he plays in several bands including Drivetrain, High End Trio, and of course the Quinn Family Singers. And the members of the Quinn Family Singers are especially grateful, as are we, to Brian for freeing up his schedule to be here to perform this morning. As Paul Quinn told me, every band should have at least one musician in it. And apparently, Brian is that one. Andy.
We do have some of Brian's Drivetrain CDs over here as well as the Quinn Family Singers CDs, so check those out.
Andy Quinn, the eldest son of Paul and Kathy. He's a senior.
He's usually just going to bed right now.
That's why he's wearing the sunglasses. His eyes aren't actually open.
Andy's a senior at Franklin University, majoring in business. He also owns and operates Quinn's Concessions, which offers candy and toys for children at major area events. He's a passionate rapper who draws a loyal following at many Columbus area clubs, where he's known simply as Q. He has a long history of interest in healthcare. He's volunteered for NAMI and at senior housing communities as well. There you have it. Did I miss anybody?
There's like 10 more that couldn't be here, but
Well, we don't have time.
yeah. you hit the important people, Art. Thank you.
Anyway, not one keynote this year, but 11 of them. And together they have a story to tell, and they'll have some musical interludes in between their stories and testimonials. And just as we're one united to serve, as Rich said, this is a family that's one clearly united to serve. So please join me in welcoming the Quinn Family Singers.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you. And hey, that was a lot of fun last night. I appreciate that. I didn't realize the tattoos were permanent last night. Little tattoo place around the corner. I thought it would wash off. Anyway. But anyway, it is great to be here with you for this. Art called us off of our European tour to join you today. But it's a pleasure. But, I guess it's had a good ending, or I guess it's not over yet, but it's turned into a good story here with the Quinn family rallying around Pat. It wasn't an easy road. Pat was you'll hear more about his story in a little bit, but, he was a happy, healthy, intelligent, popular athlete until he turned about 15, which many of you may know is a pretty classic age for symptoms of mental illness to settle in. And we went through several years where we figured it was teen angst, it will blow over, all those kinds of things. And until it became pretty apparent that was not the case. And, since then we have really tried to rally around him. As I'm sure many of you have experienced that, quite a few families end up shunning someone in their family with a mental illness because it puts a lot of stress on the family. It's not an easy thing to deal with. And, I'd be lying if I said we didn't go through some trials and tribulations. But when the family's together, we've always sang. That's what we always do. We get my parents' living room. They have a great big living room, and we would all just sit around and sing. Always have, years and years, since I was a fetus. And so about 10 years ago, some of us sat down with Pat, and we were saying, we want to do something to support you, to support the mentally ill. We don't know how to go about doing that. So if you would have any suggestions, we're all ears. And so Pat astutely said, well, if you have a serious mental illness, you tend not to have much fun. You're usually in isolation and depressed, and it's not a great existence. So if you could think of something that would be fun for the mental health community, that would be my suggestion, whatever that might be. And I was thinking, well, there are no, places, ice cream parlors with free jewelry, there's nothing that, everybody would enjoy. So my father said, well, when we're together, we sing. Why don't we just put on a show for the mental health community? And being the skeptic that I am, I was like, who would want to hear us? And he said, well, there's only one way to find out. So my parents got their church social hall, and this was almost 10 years ago now, and we all brought our guitars. I guess they weren't letting me play drums at that point because it made too much noise. But we all brought our guitars for an informal sing-along, and everybody brought food so we could feed everybody, and we all bought some gifts that we could give away, and we had raffles and all kinds of things. And the first year, I don't know, we had 25 people or something. I mean, we had fun. We were singing.
25 enthusiastic people.
Yeah. Well, considering we were singing before nobody in the living room before that, this was a big crowd for us. So anyway, but we continued it, and it's grown. The second year, I don't know, we had 50 people, and the next year it was 75. And anyway, we have had to move locations a couple of times because we were running out of space. So we now perform at a place called the Zanesville Welcome Center over in Zanesville, where we're from. And it holds about 350 people, and it is elbow to elbow. You can't get anyone else in there. And we strive to keep a little area for a dance floor, which becomes difficult. Yeah, well, obviously I'm a consumer. But anyway, about 5 years ago, people started asking for CDs of our performances. And I was like, you're joking, right? Like, no, I would love to have a CD. Wow. Okay, so I worked for a lot of years in video and TV, so I just started recording our shows and then making CDs of our shows. So that's much of what we have at this table over here, if you have interest. And then, as Art mentioned, actually last spring, I think it was, someone who knows Tom in Athens heard about what we were doing, and he has a recording studio, and he basically insisted that he record us. And so that's the one professionally produced CD that we have over here as well, and we're thankful for that.